I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, June 18th, 2018 to order. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead it in Charlie's absence today. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just indulge me for a moment, my fellow board members. On Thursday, Flag Day, I had a wonderful opportunity to participate in the Flag Day ceremony at Calvin Leet with 200 plus smiling faces, fully bedecked in red, white, and blue, and singing songs. It was just absolutely terrific. And then midday, the Lions Club had a celebration. Unfortunately, it wasn't well advertised because it was put together last minute. Where they honored the flag. They had the hook and ladder truck with that huge flag that was donated at some point, hanging off the back of it.
But I wondered about
Right.
it. I couldn't stop. It looked great.
Right. So the line, and I talked to Ed Montague, who was organizing on behalf of the Lions, and we're going to try to make this an annual event
That's
and get
great.
some publicity ahead of time, and we'll promote it on our websites, etc. So just wanted
Very
to
nice.
give you a quick update.
So
on
do
that.
the Lions own that flag?
I don't think so, but ironically, the Lions donated the flagpole that is on the green back in 1961 or
Oh, okay.
62.
Wow.
So that's their piece of interest and ownership, if you will. So,
Great.
Very
was good.
nice.
All right. And I apologize for not having gotten an invite out to you, but it was literally that morning, as I was walking in the office, Ed was walking out, and he asked me if I'd participate. So. Okay, item 2, public hearing to obtain comments on programs that shall be included on a list pursuant to Chapter 228A of the Connecticut General Statutes, Neighborhood Assistance Act, prior to submission of such list to the State of Connecticut Department of Revenue Services. And we had several applications. This is a standard annual process that needs to take place by the board to approve these, and these are what are they, federally administered grant programs through the state. And today we have, I think it's 4 of them in front of us. 2 of them from Sarah Foundation, 1 from Women and Family Life, and 1 from Lifelinks. Since we had representatives from each of those organizations, I think it would be appropriate for the viewing audience to understand a little bit about what you intend to do with these neighborhood assistance acts. Even though it's not Guilford taxpayer money, it is taxpayer money at some point. So why don't we start? The order in our packet is we have Lifelinks. Anybody from Lifelinks here? Okay, no one from Lifelinks. Lifelinks is proposing. Their program title is Moose Manor Energy Conservation and Rehabilitation Program, and I believe it is a sober safe house. And they are asking for the maximum on the neighborhood assistance program grant of $150,000, and it's rehabilitation of the facility. So we can move through that one quickly. Next up, excuse me, is Sarah, Tuxas Harbor. You want to come on up? And thank you. And just name and address for the right there.
Excellent.
Name and address for the record. So
Sure. My personal address or my work address?
let's see, work address, I think, in this case.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ken Alberti from the Sarah Foundation. We are 246 Goose Lane. And I have a request here for Tuxas Harbor renovations for Sarah Tuxas, which is just around the corner here. The harbor is a facility where we host recreation, day programs, and respite services. And it's a 11,000 square foot facility that does not have HVAC systems. So there are some freestanding units in a few rooms, but there are several without. And as you can imagine, and it's very there are several rooms within this space, so having really adequate HVAC systems would be quite helpful to running comfortable and safe programs.
Okay. And the total amount is 100,000. Is that what you guys are looking for?
That's an estimate based on we need to get some quotes still from HVAC companies, but considering the size of the facility
Right.
and there's no ductwork, there's nothing really in place.
Place.
It may be a sizable Yeah, but it is an estimate.
Wonderful. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.
Excellent. I have a second. Should I just stay?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You were doing the second one, too?
Excellent, thank
Good.
you. So Sarah Inc. Enrichment Services is also seeking requests for, they provide programs, and this specific request is for lower income program recipients. So recreation programs and some other group activities that are otherwise would not be available to some of these participants due to the cost.
Right. And this is about $5,000.
Yes, exactly. Yep, and there's some funding already existing to support, to
I
offset,
see that.
exactly.
All right. I see Guilford Foundation continues to support.
Correct.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Ken, thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you.
Catherine? For Women and Family Life Center, Catherine Bradshaw is the acting, or the interim?
Interim executive director, yeah.
Executive director.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, thank you. My address is 96 Fair Street. I'm giving you the Women and Family Life Center
Right.
address. Hi, everybody. And our request is for some funding to replace windows in the upper part of our building. It obviously is about energy conservation. Hopefully you've all been in our lovely building. You at least know where it is, and you know it's an older facility. I think it was 1840 something it was built. And we actually had a very successful campaign, as you might be aware of, a funding campaign that allowed us to renovate and fix some structural issues, and also helped us to hire a wonderful licensed social worker. That was very wonderful. But the funding did not extend to the upper floor, and so we have these windows that are very drafty up there. And heat rises and it escapes out those windows, and it costs us, we spend $10,000 a year on utilities. So that's the largest overhead cost that we have. So we really want to try to bring that down and put that money to programming instead. So we're asking for, what is it, 21,000?
Yeah, 21, 26.
Almost 22, well, $21,500. That amount would is basically to replace the windows if there are no issues. And then you'll see the total project cost we're estimating is about $31,000. That's if there are issues. We don't know yet until we open things up. And so if that's the case, we have another foundation, Padre Pio, who has committed to helping us with that cost if we have that, yeah. Yeah, we have a wonderful contractor. I don't know if you know Stephen Estes, Eddies, is that how you, with Schoolside Remodeling, who does that work.
Great. Any questions?
Questions?
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we need a motion to include these in the submission, to submit this list of recipients or applicants to the State of Connecticut Department of Revenue Services. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion, but I'll have a question before we're done voting.
Certainly.
Second.
And that question would be?
So the idea, so this grand total is not necessarily all going to be, it's subject to some decision at the state.
State.
So we're making a recommendation to pass
Correct.
all four of these on, and then,
Correct.
Is there any priority that we can give as we move them forward? I mean, how does that work?
I'm not sure we have the ability to make those, that decision.
Okay,
I think the state does it on the basis of the merits of each individual case.
okay,
So,
got it, great, thanks.
anything further? We got a motion on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Wonderful, thank you very much. Item 3, public forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the board in public forum on any item on the agenda? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to add an item to the agenda as 7.2, and that would be consider the RFP for bulky waste management services.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So that will be 7.2. Thank you. All right, item 4, approved minutes. 4.1 would be the June 4th, 2018 minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, changes, additions, deletions?
Oh, great.
They did look good. I had a chance to go through them. Anything from anyone? No? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 5, Finance Director, Mary Jane.
Morning.
Good morning.
morning.
How are you?
Okay, should we start with expenses?
I think we should.
Okay, we are 92.6% through the year, hard to believe already. The town, if you look at our expenditures, is at 92.5. So, you know, just based on percentage-wise, we are right where we're expected to be, and we're at 85.8 when we factor in the Board of Ed. There are 3 budgets that are currently over at this time. Legal, which we have discussed for a couple of meetings that we had anticipated a series of items coming through there. The building department, which I believe I've mentioned before as well, because we have revenue that has come in specifically for contracted services, which offsets that expenditure. Natural resources the storms have really done damage to his budget, no pun intended, but you know, with down trees, we do have purchase orders outstanding. Kevin was out last week. I wasn't able to speak to him where he stands with those, but that's the reason for his overage at this time. I did meet with Public Works, since the storms also affect that budget. We're hoping to keep that budget within its appropriation at this time, working with the other budget line items, even though you'll see that over time and some of the storm-related specific line items within their budget are over, but they're doing their best to keep that budget whole for the end of the year. But if you have any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Good, okay.
Revenue. This month, you'll notice tax collection had over $245,000 worth of tax refunds, specifically, not all, but a significant amount of them related again to the new tax law, and that actually doubles our average. From year to year, you know, 245 is typically our average year over year for tax refunds, and we've doubled that mainly because of that. For that reason, Lou, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the overall report, and it says 140,000.
Overall, but for the month, it's 245.
Actual month-to-date revenue. Am I saying that wrong?
Oh.
Or is there a different report?
Nope, that's it. But that's the net of the
Oh,
taxes coming in and
paid.
taxes
Oh, I
going out.
see. So that's in the detail,
The
the
net. So if you
240.
were to look at the detail,
Okay.
you'll see what's
Okay.
driving that.
Gotcha.
Is
Thank you.
because normally that would not have been a negative number, but we set back more money than we brought in this month. But I mean, this is not a month that we're generating a lot of revenue. You
Anyway.
know, for May, June, you know, we start to pick up, you know, collecting revenue for the following year. So.
Okay.
Is it possible to tell whether we're pretty much done with that, the refunds due to the double payments? Or is there more, you think, coming through?
I can double check with the tax collector.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think that they would be done by now.
You would think
That
so,
was this was
yeah.
the large bulk of it.
Mhm.
So last month we had some, it was the beginning of it, and this was the large bulk.
Okay.
But I can
Yeah.
certainly double check that.
Yeah, it could be a big surprise at the end there, so be good
Correct.
to know.
Then again, bring your attention to the building department, which is over its anticipated revenue budget already by more than 35,000, which more than compensates where they're over on the expenditure
Expense
line.
side.
But that's why we're seeing the increased revenue coming in to cover that contracted services. We've been having some discussion regarding the fire department and deficit in that due to cuts in the Medicare supplement reimbursements. I have spoken with the chief. He does anticipate coming in around $800,000 for the year, which is shows the $75,000 deficit due to that Medicare supplement. However, call volume's been up, and
Right.
that's not a good thing, but because call volume is up, we have 2
Billing
more
will be up.
months of revenue, which we may meet that, budget because of that. But we have been anticipating, a loss due to
Yes.
the supplemental.
Mental, yeah.
So, but, state revenue is, unfortunately right where we expect it
That's
to
it
be
today?
at this point.
No, it's not under.
We have heard, however, that the second half of the Town Aid Road
It's coming in.
money should be coming. It has not yet been released, but it was on the June 1 State Bond Council special meeting. So we're hoping that have not received, Matt, unless you've heard differently, I haven't had final confirmation that it's coming, but we're closer to getting it than I've been able to report up till now. So hopefully we'll get that this month.
It was included in the last bond.
Correct,
Right.
and that meeting was June 1st.
Yep.
So, hopefully
good.
we'll get it in this month. Overall, we're exactly where we were last year at this time, so things are looking,
The finance, and I'm sure we've touched on this before, but you're significantly over in that line. That's a result of.
all interest.
Interest.
All interest, but based on the practices that's just as a result of interest rates going up?
Correct, and the amount that we've been able to put into our STIF and
Okay. So
investments.
so there hasn't been any change in the policies of your office of how you're handling the
Not
money?
necessarily, we're still using STIF to the most that we can, and as tax collection comes in, starting in July, we may make some changes there.
Okay, and so, not to get ahead and look forward to the budget season already, but I mean, it's realistic that we would see a likely projected bump in that revenue?
Well, we already have a bump coming in for
Yeah.
fiscal year 19.
Okay.
A bump coming in for that as budgeted,
Right,
so.
okay.
That was the adjustment the Board of Finance made when
Oh,
they
yeah.
set their mill rate. They anticipated
150,
150,000.
Great,
which we're
inside of,
almost apt to make this year without any changes.
okay, great.
All right. Anything further on road? Year end?
Oh, okay. I did
Figured
look
that was
quickly.
coming.
Yeah, I did look quickly at year end. Last month, I reported about an $600,000 surplus at the end of the year. Brought that down to about 500,000, mainly based on the additional tax refunds and some other changes that we've made. But we're still probably somewhere around the $500,000 mark.
Okay. Good. And then on the expense side, too early to project?
That's all
That's
inclusive.
net?
That's
That's a net
net.
number?
Yep, that's net.
Yeah, great.
All right. Nice, good. Anything further? Yeah, medical, another good month, right?
Yeah, we've had this, May was a good month. Our claims were down significantly, about $200,000. So that's bringing our fund balance anticipated to up over $4.3 million. And
Right.
as we've discussed, we will be having conversations on how to handle that.
Right. You
That
wanna-
surplus at this point.
For those in the viewing audience, and just a refresher here, I want to talk a little bit about the meeting we held with our insurance consultants, or the health consultants, relative to the applicable uses of that money? No?
Yeah, sure. So we met with our insurance, you're talking about the one couple months ago.
The one where we talked about the appropriate uses of the funds in the.
Right, as the HR director and I have been talking since as we've been saying, since we've been talking about this, we're very concerned about how we use the fund balance in the medical because of what it represents. And our advisors were in agreement with that, and we're looking at ways that we could effectively give that money, use that money. There are ways that we could do it where it's, we take some funding out in proportion to the employees, but that was such a difficult item to quantify knowing, you know, what employees had money. It's just was too difficult. One of the things we did find was that back in 2013, the town and the Board of Ed put a significant amount of money into the fund when the fund went into a deficit. So that is, our advisors were 100% certain that that money could be taken out with no no penalty or no strings attached. So we've been meeting with them. They do feel that our fund budget, our fund balance, believe it or not, is not high for them. They do not see that as excessive because they're looking into the future and, you know, wanting to be sure that, you know, that we have enough funds should 2013 come again. But we're looking to have at least a minimum of 2 months in there. And if we were to take out the money that the town and the Board of Ed put in, it's somewhere around $500,000. So it doesn't make a huge dent into this money, but it does utilize some of the funds, and we'll be able to, you know, do that without any penalty within the fund itself.
Good. Thank you. Any further questions on it? No? One?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Great.
All right. Excuse me. Item 6, Mitch Goldblatt, Director of Human Services, 6.1, discuss and take possible action on cost of living adjustment for retirees. Mitch, you
Good
wanna
morning.
give us a summary on that?
Sure. The pension committee discusses regularly, obviously, the cost of the pension, and in the police contract, we're required to look at the potential cost of living adjustment every 2 years. Traditionally, the pension committee has looked at the cost of living adjustment possibility, not only for the police, but for the entire population of pensioners, being town employees and Board of Ed as well. So we go out to Milliman, we go out and get an actuarial estimate of what the cost will be. The pension committee did a extensive or exhaustive look at that, a lot of discussion about it, but concluded that they would not be, and you have in your packets, not recommending a cost of living adjustment at this time due to the costs involved. And you should have a letter there from Chairman Patrick Smith about that. And so I think the action for this board is either to endorse that letter or just take no action. But at some point, you know, there's still, it does fall under the Board of Selectmen's purview to make the final decision on that.
Questions?
Yeah, why are they not recommending? What's the reasoning?
The costs. I mean, the cost of our pension continue to grow, even though we have a closed pension system. The Milliman report, you know, is basically saying, depending on what level for a full cost of living increase, you're looking at an increase in liability for police at almost $600,000, for the schools at $130,000, and for the town, it's broken up, but I'd say it's about $120,000. So I mean, it's basically the cost, and trying to keep our costs down for the pension. But just for history, because this is mostly a new board, that there has not been a cost of living adjustment granted by the Board of Selectmen since 2008, and the reason every 2 years has pretty much been the same.
Okay, I'm happy to not have one, but it's surprising. So we're not required to look at that from the point of
We're
view
required
of the
to-
pensioners. It's about the plan itself.
We're required to look at it, and the pension committee does take a look at it. I will say it was not just a slam dunk. There was extensive discussion about this, about the desire to want to do this, but the costs pulling back and saying, you know, the pension is very expensive. We feel, and I don't want to speak for the committee, but I think there was a feeling that, you know, most of the pensioners, you know, have a good pension from the town, and therefore the cost to this would be significant at this time, especially in the tightening of purse strings all over the place. So
Okay.
The pension committee did a rather exhaustive analysis. Sally put together a history of the pension contracts and enhancements over the past 30
years,
years. And clearly there are some pensioners who have not benefited from the more generous pension enhancements during that time frame. However, there were several members who said a contract is a contract. You know, this was bargained for in good faith at the
Right.
time, and it was a good
Yeah.
deal to them going forward. So, the challenge there was, in order to address a specific group, you needed, the thought was, from a legal perspective, you would probably have to treat the entire class to the same COLA.
Right. Yeah.
And
Interesting,
because the enhancements that have been built into, in negotiations, in bargaining.
There's give and take in that.
That's right. That those folks were less in need of COLA adjustments, so. Is that
Okay.
fair representation
Yeah,
of the way they
absolutely.
thought?
Matt was involved there at the meetings as well, so.
And the fact that the, I don't know if it's the law or the policy or the voted upon agreement, allows the committee to examine this every year or every second
2 years,
year
2
is
years,
a
every
good
2 years.
thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the more prudent thing to do is to have the Board of Selectmen do what they've done in the past, which is to make a motion that says they would.
To accept the
Accept the recommendation of the pension committee, not to grant a COLA
increases at this
time.
And so in a couple of years, just to put a fine point on it, in a couple of years, this will be reviewed again, and if all
2
of a
years
sudden
from now, we'll
there's
look at it again, yep.
another inflation environment, they could make a
Absolutely.
different
Right.
decision.
Absolutely,
Right.
yep.
Okay, but there's no interim opportunity to adjust that, it's an every
No,
2-year review.
it would not be with 2
But the
years.
projection for the next year is maybe slightly rising inflation, but not terrible,
This we'll see.
as we'll see.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation of the pension committee in their letter of May 21, 2018.
Okay. Second,
Second?
further discussion? Call the question?
No,
No, call the question?
getting ready to say
Say-
aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Mitch. We had originally 6.2 on the agenda, consider and take possible action on the town of Guilford policy for travel expenses for town business. At this point, we are not prepared to move forward, that we were tweaking it towards the end of last week, and it's not yet fully baked. What became apparent to me was, while we have bits and pieces of travel reimbursement policies, we don't have a comprehensive codified document. And contrary to popular opinion, sometimes when I'm signing the requisitions, the expense requisitions, Mary Jane will back me up on this, I look at it and say, explain this to me. And there needs to be greater consistency in the application of the reimbursement policies. So that is the overall goal here, and we should have that within the next, we'll have it ready for the next meeting.
Hopefully next meeting.
Because Mitch, Mary Jane, and Pam and I are working on it.
Well, we'll, you know, getting our heads together on that. There are a couple things that are very obvious. There are a couple things we want to, you know, look at together and give a comprehensive policy to you that you can take a look at and vote on.
Great.
All right, so is there a motion to table 6.2?
So moved.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 7, town engineer, Jim Portley.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
And well, let's finish and then we'll have some, I'll try to embarrass you afterwards. How's
Oh,
that?
well, I've embarrassed myself all the time. That's not a problem. First time I open my mouth, but boom.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
Okay, first thing. Summer chip seal program.
There you go.
The Public Works Commission voted Thursday night to approve the program for this year. It's based on a state of Connecticut bid for contract number 16 PSX 0172. This is a vendor in place contract that the state puts out. We have piggybacked on it for a number of years. The low bid price was $1.17 per square yard. There was something we've added on is under the contract too, is this polymer additive that gets better adherence of the stone to the oil. And so we add 10 cents there. And then there's a provision that allows the vendors, they bid these contracts in the fall, and the price of asphalt fluctuates. So the asphalt cement has this provision for it that goes up and down. Currently, the adjustment is about 12 cents per square yard, yielding a total price of $1.39. For estimating purposes at this point, I used $1.40 per square yard. And using that, then we backed out of what was our original schedule of roads to be done. Since we pared it down because of the budget situation, we reduced the amount of money we were gonna spend from $185,000 down to $137,000. Came up with this list of roads: Peddlers, Dunk Rock, Sachem's Head, Colonial Road, Old Sachem's Head Road, Vineyard Point Road, Falcon Road, and Trolley Road. These are all the main thoroughfare roads. There are small roads off these roads that we looked at. They were not in bad shape. And so our focus has always been focus on the main roads with all the traffic on them.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we have the biggest exposure to in terms of pounding and so forth deterioration. So we come up with 98,000 square yards for a price of, based on that, of $137,254.40. And we had, after budget reduction, we had $137,500, so we tailored to it. So based on that, and again, based on our experience with New England Asphalt Services, they're a division of Empire Paving, they have offered us the lowest price based on the contract, and we've had really good success with them. We also slotted in with them in discussions. They would be able to come in the first week in August, which is the optimal time for us. About a month before school starts, you get the work done, get the heat of the summer, which is good too, and then you get the traffic and the cleanup. We can have that all done before school starts. So it is recommended the Board of Selectmen approve a contract with New England Asphalt Services for the sum of $137,254.40.
The only thing I would add is that because of the amount, we would need performance improvement. So I don't know if this goes into that price or
No, but we do.
increase it.
Yeah. Usually that's about $500. New York.
They'll roll it in.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, Jim, is there any period of time when these roads that are contemplated to be addressed are closed outright?
No.
Okay.
No, we maintain traffic throughout the whole time.
Okay.
We've been very successful. Matter of fact, last month, we rebuilt a section of Old Sachem's Head Road. We used the reverse 911 notification. Helped a lot. People were really satisfied. We did the same thing last year in North Guilford. So it works out. As long as people know what's going on,
Okay.
they seem to be satisfied. So
And
we don't
there's-
really close the roads.
And there's signs that go up that this is happening on their street and
Right.
that loose material will be out there for a little
Travel
while.
slow, and that's what will make the reverse 911 a little more explicit. Travel at a slow speed, because the one complaint we've always had over the years is that sometimes oil gets up on the cars, but if they travel slow, there shouldn't be a problem. But that's a good problem. Good question.
Good. You good with this?
Yeah,
Is there a
thank you.
motion, is there a motion to approve awarding the contract to New England Asphalt Services in the amount of $137,254, plus or minus with the bond cost? Is there a motion for that?
Second.
And that bond cost, Jim, you sort of said, we heard it, but it was about $500 more or
Right.
less. That's within all these budgeted numbers. It's not a significant change.
No,
You got
we
it
can handle that
covered.
within the overall budget.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim.
All right, call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carried. 7.2, and that is RFP number 3-1718, bulky waste management services. Jim?
Right, our contract with Willimantic Waste is running out the end of this month. So back in June, we received proposals from 3 companies: Willimantic Waste, Cherry Hill Construction, and the CWPM. I think that's the title of these. Went through the analysis of the prices that were bid based on the last year's performance, how much tonnage we had and how many trips and so on. And based on that, Willimantic Waste came in not a whole lot lower, but somewhat lower than Cherry Hill
Cherry Hill, yeah.
for the next 3 years. There is also a provision for the RFP to extend that contract another 3 years if it's agreeable to both parties. At which time it looked like that based on the numbers, Willimantic Waste looks much better in the second 3-year period because their prices don't change much. The price of the tonnage, instead of, Cherry Hill increases their price $8, and Willimantic Waste increased their fee $5. The big difference is that Cherry Hill increased their transportation costs $60 versus Willimantic Waste, which is only $25. So I would recommend that the Board of Selectmen sign on with Willimantic Waste for another contract.
And these are the ones we were using.
These were the people we're using, and we've really had a very good, they've been really good. They've, you know, the biggest problem down there sometimes is you get these weekends where just everybody shows up, and you start out with an empty trailer, and then by, you know, Friday afternoon it's full, and then Saturday morning you got more people coming in. So we've established a policy, they will have 3 trailers there on a Friday. So we never get into that situation where we have to dump it on the ground and load the trailers with a loader. So they've been terrific to wheel. You know, it took some time. You go through these problems as you work it out, but they've been very good. So I would recommend we sign on with Willimantic Waste for the price noted.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion and
Second.
Jim's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. This is the embarrassing
Now
part.
you want to embarrass me?
Now I want to embarrass you. For those who don't know, Jim Portley, after 43 years, is retiring. 43 years of service to the town, and I personally want to thank Jim for the fingerprint that he has left on this community with the engineering expertise that he has lent to this community and the concern he has had for this community. And it's not often people retire with that much service in one place, and I just want to congratulate you and personally thank you for all your efforts on behalf of the town of Guilford, and wish you the best in retirement. I also know you're not leaving, and if we need some advice or some help, some institutional knowledge, and there's a lot of it after 43 years.
Whatever's left.
We'll just keep picking away at it and see what we can get. But I personally wanted to thank you on behalf of the town government as well as the community for all the work you've done in Guilford, and may you have a wonderful retirement.
Thank you very much, and as I've said to you, Matt, it's been an honor and a privilege to work for this town. It really has been. It's changed a life that I never would have understood. How a community, the volunteerism and the goodwill of most of the people. You know, it's been an apolitical town for all the years I've been here. Things get done because they need to get done, and it's the best interest of the town. I think it's been a great experience in my life, and I think I thank the town for putting up with me. Never mind me putting up with them. So, thank you very much for the kind words. Take care. Bye-bye.
Congrats.
Item 8, Rick, Park and Recs Director. 8.1, discuss and take possible action on contractor for community center carpet replacement.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rick. How are you?
I'm honored to sit in the same seat that Jim Portley
You're not announcing your retirement, are you?
No.
Okay.
Well, I told my wife I'm retired. I said I was tired yesterday. I'm tired again today.
boy. We gotta get you on Carson.
I gotta do one, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the Rotary meeting.
Now I forgot what I'm here for. All right, so we got two things. The first one is replacing the carpet in the community center. We're replacing the first and second floor corridors, the game room, and the offices, and also the stair treads. They're starting to wear out, you know, so we just don't want to get to the point where they're slippery and something might fall out. And so we have $26,000 in the budget, and we solicited 3 quotes, and they're all under state contract. And so the lowest one is BCI, Bartholomew Contract Interiors, for $37,655.46. The Parks and Recreation Commission approved paying for the balance out of the program fund. We just think that it needs to get done, especially the carpet on the second corner. It's original. It's 25 years old, and it's the same carpet. It's been there all these years, and not in horrendous shape, but it's getting there. We want to get it before it gets to that point. And so that
The work we would probably get done late summer. We want to get the roof done first. That's kind of just getting ready to start now. They're going to deliver the shingles Wednesday, and so pretty soon we're going to start the roof project. We just didn't want to, if somebody walks in, they got tar on the bottom of their feet from the roof or whatever, and walking in on the new carpet, we thought, we'll do it after the roof is done. So, but it's in this year's money, so we want to get the purchase order,
That's right.
to have it for
Carry it
ready to
forth.
go. Yeah.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Looks good. Is there a motion to approve the, award the project to Bartholomew Contract Interiors in the amount of $37,655.46, under state contract 12 PSX 0307?
So moved?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Rick, item number 2.
Okay, so painting the community center, again, the outside's never been painted. It's over 25 years old now. And the contract would be for painting all the exterior and some of the interior rooms, mostly the ones that are hard for Steve's crew or my crew to reach, like the stairwell.
Right.
It's, it's a little challenge trying to get there. And the upper level, the room in the Guilford room, painting that. So a few of the rooms, but mostly it's the exterior. And we solicited 3 quotes. We only got 2. One was a no quote. And the range there, where the high was 41,800, and SPM was $23,025, and that's in our budget. We have $25,000 budgeted for that. And again, that is a project we would do after the roof. It doesn't make sense to paint the side of the building and they're taking gutters down or wherever they scratch something, scrape it or whatever. But we want to have that money available for us to do that when we're ready to go.
Great, thank you. I do have one question. SPM, it's a local contractor.
It
right?
is.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice to see.
Yeah, they're right on Union Street here.
Nice to see.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to award the painting project to SPM for $23,025?
I'll make that motion.
And the second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Rick, before you left, this is not on the agenda, but while we have the cameras here, would you take a moment to talk about the open house you are having at Bittner Park next Monday night,
Sure.
please?
Yep, and this is for the proposed disc golf course.
Correct.
We're creating one fairway. I hate to call them fairways because they're not clear cut. It's a fairway, but it's not like a golf course. We're creating one because we want people to see what it's going to look like. We're inviting people to come and see it, and they'll see it. It's not clear cutting in the woods. It's not like a golf course. It's basically like a wide trail through the woods, pretty much. We've done most of it. We've got a few more small trees to come down. Most of the trees were like little, 2-inch diameter. There might be some that are 6-inch diameter to come down. There are a few more to do, but I was out there on Friday, and you would hardly know that anything was done, other than see a couple little stumps right now. But we want people to see it. We'll also take them through part of the course. So there are concerns some people have about it being close to trails, and they'll see it as 25, 30 feet away from trails. So we want to give people an opportunity to get an idea of what it might look like before we go any farther with it.
What
And
is
that's
the
it.
date and the time again?
It's Monday the 25th at 5:30. We'll meet in the back parking lot, like right below the skate park.
All right, Rick, and I had asked you to take a look at the deed when we acquired that parcel of property back in 1972 or something.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Around that time.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about the contemplated uses for that, for that property. Actually included real golf.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
And it was always anticipated that it was going to be a combination of active and passive recreation throughout that property. So just wanted to clarify some of that.
Yeah, and interesting, ball fields were not in the original.
Exactly.
I mean, the deed said basically any recreation, but golf was listed as one of the things that was acceptable there.
Exactly.
And this is a lot different from golf. It's disc golf, a lot less impact on the environment there.
The other thing I want to talk a little bit about is the trails that are affected. How many trails and what kind of effect are we talking about?
Boy. Well, a lot of the trails are loops, so it's like that one trail, but there's, off the top of my head, Matt, I'll say 5 or 6 trails. A number of them we're not even near. The most popular trail, and the most attractive trail is, to me anyway, is the trout trail. It goes along the river.
Yep.
We're nowhere near that. None of the trails on Baldwin, you know, there's a lot of trails go through the Baldwin property on the other side of the, north of the stream that separates Bittner from Baldwin. We're not near that part at all. But any of the trails that go, none of the trails go through, or let's just say none of the fairways go across trails.
Right.
It may be adjacent to, but nothing crossing. And I think they're far enough away. Again, I was walking there on Friday with a Boy Scout who's going to build a bridge on one of the trails as a Eagle project. And you can see where the stake is marked where the basket would go, and it's 30, 40 feet away from the trail. You know, some of them are a little closer, but at that point, the basket, it's called a putter. It's like they're putting it. You're kind of gently tossing it into the basket. So I think it's going to be fine. You know, we certainly want to make sure we're not going to impact any kind of safety issues.
And we invite the public to come out and take a look. And,
Yes.
if need be, we may even schedule another one of those,
Yeah.
if possible. And there will be a public hearing
A public
related.
meeting, yeah, on July 17th.
Right.
And we'll get information out on that.
Good. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 9, Brian McGlone, our Economic Development Coordinator, and Carly Callahan is with Brian to consider and take possible action on Free Keys project and approve placement of 2 pianos in visible locations in Guilford.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Carly. Welcome.
Thank
Brian,
you so much
welcome
for
as well.
allowing me to speak to you this morning. As I'm here to represent Free Keys, which is a private initiative by myself and Greg Noble of Branford to place pianos in public spaces in the towns of Branford, Madison, and Guilford beginning this Thursday. Thursday is Connecticut Make Music Day, and I know that Guilford is already involved in some initiatives for that. But we have up to today have collected 8 pianos. They are being painted by artists in a studio space in Branford. I can hand this down to you. The pianos for Guilford, the first one, the purple one, is being painted and has been completed by Earl Colleen, who's a pretty renowned painter in his own right. And the second one is by Adriana Wilmer, who's the Shoreline Arts Alliance Visual Arts winner of the Shoreline Arts Extraordinary Achievement in Visual Arts Scholarship. That would be the one that would be ideally going in front of the library. So as I mentioned, our timeline is that these pianos will be picked up at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening and delivered to their new homes for the duration of the summer tourist season, ending in the beginning of September. And at the beginning of September, the pianos will be donated to schools, community organizations, or whomever else might be interested in having one of them in residence. So we have been making excellent progress. This is an initiative on a very short timeline. We started talking about this about 3 weeks ago, and we have secured approval from the towns of Madison and Branford. There will be 3 pianos in each of those towns. As far as logistics go, there will be a waterproof cover on the back of each of the pianos. That can be, you know, obviously for protection purposes for rain and inclement weather, but also if the pianos need to be silenced. So that is a concern that we're hoping will be able to be addressed. We're going to have a selection of sheet music in all of the piano benches and create a lending library so that people can bring music with them and take some home if they'd like. And we also have an intern who is dedicated to this project and will be checking the pianos for vandalism. We'll obviously fix that if that becomes an issue. And our tuner will also be monitoring the pianos. They're being tuned as we speak right now in Branford. We are assuming all of the costs associated with this project. It is sponsored by the Freaky Tiki, which is Greg Noble's new project in Branford. And as far as insurance goes, our insurance agent, I just spoke to him actually before coming into this meeting, of Marchetti, Brown, and Bishop, Thomas Marchetti, has assured me that he is going to have the paperwork in place and offered to speak to you directly by the time we launch this in about 72 hours. Nail biter. May I answer any questions?
I think it's a terrific idea.
Thank you.
I had a conversation with Tom Banish in Madison, and he was wholeheartedly endorsing this as well. The only concern we had were indemnity and liability, and it appears as if you have taken care of that through the documentation, preliminary documentation, and that's going to need to get to Pam Millman.
Okay. Okay, wonderful.
And I also have Rob McCool over at the library also is thrilled. He thinks it's a great opportunity, and they have a spot located that they'll be able to accommodate that. The other location is at the other end of the green.
Right.
Diagonally across, it's on the corner of Whitfield and Boston
Boston,
Street, right? So that's
So essentially on the green side.
on the green, right?
Right.
And they've secured, I think it's important to note, you secured the approval of the Guilford Green
Committee.
Committee. So that hurdle has already been passed, so.
Can you just explain the waterproof cover a little bit? Like-
Yes, they're actually made for grills, outdoor grills, the biggest size available, and they fit over an upright piano. And they will be, there's a netting on the back of the piano that will house the covers. We're going to ask businesses, individuals, we're gonna have website and social media presence, asking people to chip in. This is a community piano, and when it starts to rain, to kindly cover the piano up. But we understand that that is not necessarily gonna happen all of the time, so we've sealed the pianos and used a type of paint that will allow it for as much vitality in an outdoor condition as possible.
Great.
Really fun.
As you can see in this conversation, I was brought along to be the pretty face. I mean,
And you are.
But, I just, obviously, I supported the project as well. I mean, from the community standpoint, just to reinforce, Carly is a member of our Guilford Performing Arts Festival board and helped us in last year's event and is very active in the 2019 event. So although she's a Madison resident, she has definitely been an advocate for Guilford's arts and crafts and the whole visibility of that. So ironically, after she came in and presented this, that Sunday, watching Sunday morning, CBS Sunday Morning, New York was talking about how they have over 200 pianos scattered throughout conceptually the same idea. And it's something that a lot of the, particularly around the green, merchants have been asking for, to have casual music, just to add to the ambiance and the atmosphere. So when this came along, we thought it really supported that initiative. And I'll have to see how I do on chopsticks.
We'll do a duet.
Okay. I wanna know when that's happening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That would be
Good.
good promotion.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments?
Sounds like a great idea.
Is there a motion to approve the placement of 2 pianos in visible locations in Guilford as described here, under the conditions that Carly has laid out, contingent upon successful execution of the contract documents, the legal documents?
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? Hearing none? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much
Good luck.
for your
Thank
work.
you.
Your work on
Oh,
behalf
thank
of-
you. It's my pleasure. Don't tell Tom, but I'm really a Guilford person at heart. So. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Item 10, Guilford Arts Center, and that's to act on a request from the Guilford Arts Center for modification to the approved guidelines for alcohol on the green for the Guilford Arts Center's Craft Expo.
Hi.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning. How are you? Just a little way of background, what this is about, so would you tell the viewing audience why you're asking and what you're asking us to do? We have, a little background, we approved last year as a Board of Selectmen, not we, because none of us were on that, unfortunately Charlie's not here, an exception to the no alcohol policy on the green. And this is in support of the craft festival, right?
Yes.
Okay, up to you.
So we received permission, as you said, with our application for the entire event. And what we're asking for today is an exception, is a waiver to the policy.
It's items 3 and 4.
It's items 3 and 4 on the list of guidelines, which is that that there's a designated area for serving beer and wine. The guidelines state that it be open only to people 21 and over, who were of drinking age, but last year we received a similar exception because we wanted to not separate families, people with kids, grandparents, who, some people want to have a glass of wine or a beer, and some people don't. So we did that last year. With the help of the marketplace, we had a smaller designated area for that, and this year we're seeking a similar waiver, but an expanded area. So what we would want to do is to fence the entire food court area, so that anyone within the food court could sit where they want, could sit with beer and wine, without beer and wine, but it would remain that anyone who tried to purchase alcohol would go through all the proper channels with the marketplace, which is providing the alcohol.
So
You're
this
using-
is-
You're using a wristband?
Yeah, so, this would be the fourth year actually that beer and wine would be served
Served,
at
right.
the Craft Expo. The first 2 years, there wasn't a formal policy on that,
Right.
and last year, the police department put together guidelines that were approved by the Board of Selectmen that included some recommendations to be followed.
Right.
And the guidelines were to cover any type of area. The feedback we provided to the Board of Selectmen after last year's event included two things. One is people view this as a food court. They get their tables first and then go around and order what they want.
Right.
So we had people sitting in the non-designated area,
Right.
came to order their grilled cheese and came to get a glass of wine, and were told that they had to move their family. And so we had some visitors to town that weren't quite happy in understanding what that was. So what we're trying to overcome this year is that you could grab your seat in any of the enclosed area, and we would monitor that. And again, I think the element is trying to take the feedback. Also understand that the largest purchase during this event is non-alcoholic drinks from all the vendors and including ourselves. And so the fact is this isn't a large alcohol event, and most people are purchasing a single purchase.
Okay.
So we're just trying to take away a dissatisfier while maintaining compliance with the guidance that the police have given us.
Questions?
Any,
I-
go ahead, no, please.
Go ahead. I had some conversations with the chief relative to expanding the waiver beyond what it was. And the chief has some concerns that he expressed to me. And he was concerned about this being the entire food court, not just the alcohol, the area where alcohol is being served, and restricting it to the seating area, the seating and vendor sales area. Chief, is that consistent with what?
If you want me to point.
Yeah, please do.
So again, we proposed the guidelines last year. You guys make the decisions on whether it expands or not. The only suggestion I had was based on the sketch
Right.
that was provided. I'm assuming it's a not-to-scale sketch. And so the area that it covered was kind of the kitty corner at Boston Street and Park. Is it expected to go all the way back to the corner near the sidewalks there, or is
Yeah,
it?
it's the food, it would be the entire,
Okay,
yes, it would be
so-
bounded on all sides.
So as I look at that sketch, the only thing I would suggest, if the Board of Selectmen is going to approve that, is if you're looking to get it in the entire seating area, that makes sense, but I'd like to keep it away from in the vendor areas and everything, except for the vendors that are selling it. So if you want everybody to be able to sit, where the public can't see this, but all this area here is, I'm assuming, vendor area, right?
Yes, yes.
So if it meets your needs for the seating area where everybody sits, that would make more sense rather than all the way out to the fence line area. Can you control it that way?
The vendors back up to the fence line.
The trucks are all around.
trucks
So it's
back up to
actually,
the fence line.
there's a fence beyond where all the trucks are around.
So the vendors are the perimeter, and then the fence perimeter's the vendors.
Right, so, yeah, so what I'm trying to just convey is, if what you're looking to do is have it, the entire seating area as acceptable? Is
Yes.
that a
Oh,
way
yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yes.
As opposed to all the way to the back corners here, along Park Street and Boston Street.
So I-
Boston and Park.
Well, what we were thinking of, we thought of that as an already existing fence line,
Mm-hmm,
and no one sits there. I mean, that's sort of like a dead area.
right.
That's what he's saying.
So what are you saying? I'm sorry, what are you trying to get?
So is there, are the vendors, these areas here, that's where your trucks are and your vendors are?
And they
Okay.
have their setup area behind there.
Okay.
That's a
So again,
working,
I'm just
that's
trying
a
to work
working
on
area.
the
Yeah,
sketch,
yeah,
I'm
I know,
saying,
the
yeah.
sketch is
Yeah.
not to scale, to say the least.
So
So they're not gonna be able to leave the green or leave this designated area with the
Yeah.
alcohol, is that the point?
Or be
Right.
kind of
That's
hanging out
true.
adjacent to where the sidewalks are,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And,
Yeah, that's all work area.
if you were looking at the seating area last year, we had line of sight of the entire seating area, including the small designated area, et cetera. So the change is that we're actually there's a choke point to come in and out, we're right there, we're monitoring, we have staff there to monitor what goes in and out. And, you know, people were very compliant. They're there to enjoy
There were no
something.
problems.
No problems.
There were no problems whatsoever.
And the vendors would have tips responsibility to make sure that if anybody, for whatever reason.
Yes, so
needed to
I have
refuse the
responsibility
building.
to ensure, I have the responsibility as a permittee, as do any of my employees, that we are co-responsible, that we don't violate state liquor laws. And we all can be held responsible. We go through that. They've all been trained. We go through that in terms of how to handle situations, in terms of people coming up. This is not an event where you have a lot of young people coming up and looking to drink.
I was gonna say, this is a
it's-
craft
it's-
festival, not a dead concert.
You know, it's,
right?
it's grandma that in her big purse
Although
can't
most of
find
those
her
people
ID.
Probably dead fans.
That's not mutually
So
exclusive.
this-
That's
So Jeff, because we are a little bit at a disadvantage because we don't have this picture, we get the concept. So what, is your concern addressed? I guess I'm asking.
I think it can easily be addressed, because we're gonna have conversations built prior to it. Lieutenant Provencher, who handles special events, will be speaking to them about making sure it's arranged appropriately. And if you approve it, we will make sure it works. That's all I'll say. There's not been problems in the past. We worked well with the Handcrafts Festival. I'm just following through on the recommendations and, you know, covering the bases that we need to cover from a public safety perspective.
Okay. And if you're comfortable, you can work something out with them.
We have
You
the
have in the
last
past?
couple of years, yeah, so I don't think
Wonderful.
it'll be a problem.
And I'm comfortable granting the waiver based on the chief's interaction and his confidence in it happening the right way. On a larger scale, do we need to adjust the policy? And we can talk about that offline so that we aren't doing this on a waiver basis, on a year after year basis. However, there may be other events where you're not as comfortable in being able to work with the organization
And the
to
language
enforce
in
it.
that, in those recommendations.
Correct?
kind of address
I
it.
would keep
All right,
it,
so
yeah.
let's keep the waiver in place on a
Stopgap.
case-by-case basis.
Stop
right?
check.
Wonderful.
Just as a side comment, I will say with regard to those pianos, you might see an increase in noise complaints if people like me decide to play it. So. But other than that, I've heard them around, and those are fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. All right, is there a motion to grant the waiver as requested?
It involves beer and wine, so moved.
wasn't on
I knew
purpose,
you
but
were
that's
expecting
funny.
that, so.
You know what, I'll second it then.
Apparently, we can count on your attendance at the event. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Chief, thank you as well.
Must be that side of the table today.
I know.
That was not on purpose.
Wonderful. All right. 11, we have discussed and take possible action on programs to include in the 2018 Neighborhood Assistance Act program. It's back, it's back, it came back at us, we didn't. Yeah, I know. So, strike that as an item, right? So let's move on to item 12, appointments and resignations. 12.1, remove from table and take possible action on the appointment of Jason Marchi as an alternate to the Planning and Zoning Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire February 28, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a
I'll
second? Is there, all in favor of removing from the table?
Yeah, I'm in favor. I mean, I seem to recall we put it aside.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, recusals, none.
Yeah.
All right, on the motion itself, the reason that we had decided to table that was Mr. Marchi had publicly come out with a statement and position on the U-Haul matter, and I think we felt that it was appropriate to wait until that had been deliberated and settled, has been. So on the question of Mr. Marchi, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 12.2, act on resignation received from Bob Kuzo from the Economic Development Commission. Is there a motion to accept with regret and thanks?
So moved.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Act on resignation received from James Merithu from the Golf Course Commission with thanks and regret. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 12.4, act on appointment of Terry Kane to the Energy Task Force. As you may recall, we approved the expansion of the charter of the Energy Task Force to include Sustainable CT Initiative, and Terry has been very active in helping me get up to speed on it, and has great enthusiasm for the project. So I'd like to make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 12.5, act on appointment of Mark Allegrini to the Energy Task Force. I'd also like to make that motion. I had the opportunity to meet with Mark. He's got a pretty extensive background in sustainable initiatives, energy, which includes stints in Washington, D.C., Boston, and he is currently working, I think, out of New York, in the field. So I think he's going to make a wonderful addition. So, is there a second?
A second. It's pretty
Call,
impressive.
yeah, pretty impressive resume. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. All right, and then we have one that I'm very excited about. I had the opportunity a month and a half ago or so, maybe 2 months ago, at the Guilford High School. They do a principal for a day, and this young woman had been selected as the student to act as the principal of the day, and Mr. Macenti actually acts, and they flip roles. He follows her schedule and goes around to all her classes all day, and she takes meetings, and she had scheduled a meeting with me to talk about some of the initiatives that she would like to see and how to get kids more involved. And we had some conversations, and I talked about the Energy Task Force program in Sustainable Connecticut. And I got a letter once she read about the fact that we had charged the commission. She sent me an email asking if she could be considered, and this is wonderful. It's a rising junior at the high school who wants to participate in this as a representative for Sustainable. She originally said as a teen representative, but I think we can make her a full board member. And actually, this is not a board and commission, it's a task force, so we've got that leeway and discretion to do that. So it's with pleasure that I recommend Lily Mackey be appointed to the Energy Task Force. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Call, any further comments?
It's fantastic.
Great.
Isn't it great? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? Hearing none? Motion carries. Lily, welcome to your first board and commission or task force in the town of Guilford, and we expect great things from you. All right. Item 13.1, act on request from the Henry Whitfield State Museum to place signs on the green advertising as Make Music Day, Early Guilford Days, Halloween Hysterics, Harvesting History, and Firelight Festival. Sign placements 6/9 to 6/21, 7/14 to 7/29, 10/13 to 10/27, 11/9 to 11/23, and 11/24 to 11/30. Is there a motion?
No, I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Renewals? Recusals? Hearing none. Motion carries. All right. Item 14, correspondence. Anything? No. Anything on 14.2, building officials report, Public Works, right, 14.1. 14.3, I think, is worth a comment. It's a letter from the Guilford Fair Parade Committee, signed by Tom Terabile and Reef Tejan, that the Guilford Fair Parade will be held Saturday, September 22nd, 2018, stepping off at 10 a.m. or thereabouts. Just I don't think we have to do anything about that. That's a notification. That's a pretty standard item.
They say they're requesting permission. Do we need to?
Geez. Yeah, I guess so. I thought it was pretty much a standard.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably in a charter, a Guilford Fair Day parade, you know?
You don't have to approve anything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
So they
My
just
good.
put that in as
Yeah.
their own formality.
All right, good.
Right. Well, let's give them the permission anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would,
Sure.
Why not?
I mean, we're glad.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, that, this, on behalf of the
Second.
Guilford Fair Parade
Right.
Committee.
I'll
And a
second that, sure.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Just as a reminder, because I forgot to do this, at the Memorial Day Parade, all board members are welcome to participate and march in the parade.
Very good, thank you.
Okay? And by the way, that goes for the next 3.5 years, so, all right, it's Memorial Day and Guilford Fair Day Parade, everybody's invited.
Great.
All right, committee reports, anything on, any?
We've met once again on I guess for lack of a better word, the building fees committee.
Right.
And we've allocated some tasks. We're gonna gather some information from local builders as well as CCM, as well as the information that's been provided by internally from our staff. And, we're sort of targeting a September report back date, and we'll continue to work over the summer.
Wonderful.
All right.
Good.
And as I mentioned at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, the Committee for Housing for Economic Development continues to meet with working on the second part of the grant from the state of Connecticut to study the feasibility of possible affordable housing construction project on part of the Rollwood/Woodruff property that the town purchased in 2003. We will be having an open meeting in August, I don't have the exact date yet, as an informational meeting for the public. This is going to be a long process that will have to go through many approvals, including a public town meeting. So I just want the viewing audience to understand this meeting in August is not the final meeting by any means, and this could be 3 years before something happens, if it does. But it's a process, and we want people to be informed, and feel free to come with questions. It's an initiative by the town, supported by the Guilford Foundation and the Guilford Interfaith Housing Corporation, as well as this standing committee.
Excellent, thank you. I don't think there's any other committee reports. Old business? New business, I have one item I just want to mention, and Mitch Goldblatt and myself and several other department heads have been working on an opportunity for a young woman to do a summer internship within town government. I had the pleasure of attending this young lady's capstone presentation at Guilford Library back, I think it was in February timeframe. Very impressive young woman. She did, her capstone project was on PTSD and the effect on our veterans. She and I had subsequent conversations and had asked her whether or not we had an intern program. And the answer to that is no, we didn't. But starting on Monday, or the next Tuesday, or the following, whatever it is, next Tuesday, I think it is, right? Tuesday, Thursday. This young woman will be participating in an intern program that we have designed. It's going to be fits and starts, and the idea is to introduce her to town government, government services, and the function and operations of same. And we're somewhat limited. It's 2 days a week, over 6 weeks, is it? 6 to 8 weeks. And I want to say our department heads were tremendous in their response. I put a request out to the various department heads to identify opportunities to host this intern to get exposure to multiple areas here. The obvious thing was, okay, we'll have her go work at Park and Rec, and she'll be an unpaid intern, taking beach passes. That's not the idea here. So I want to thank the department heads who actually participated and will be giving this young woman some experience in how town government runs. So now I had some conversations with Rick Maynard, and I would like to make this an annual event, and more likely, this young lady is a senior, so she's moving on to college, but I would anticipate in future years that this would be a rising senior or a rising junior who could add this experience to a resume for college applications. And again, I want to be careful, we're not going to use this intern to displace, part-time summer hires. That's not the idea of the program. So, just thought you guys should know that something we're doing. All right. Public forum. Hearing none, let's move on to items 19, 20, and 21, all of which may require executive session. 20, which was the possible action on firefighters IAAF, is no longer required. It's not ready. All right, so we've got two.
Do we have to make a motion to table that?
Yeah, is there a motion to table item 20?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, that motion carries. We have two items, consider and take possible action on potential donation of sick time for an employee. However, first I would like to deal, because Attorney Hodgson is in the back of the room. 21, consider and take possible action on dispatchers UPSEU collective bargaining agreement. And that executive session will be required for discussion. So is there a motion to change the order and move 21 to, let's call it 18A?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none. Mitch, you're in. Chris Hodgson? Mary? What? Oh, the reason for the executive session is to discuss contract negotiations.
You'll be coming back then?
Yes, we will.
I can't believe we don't have any.
Where's the Simon people?
But I just don't remember.
Yep. All right, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Here we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Executive session, we considered and discussed two items, and as a result of that, let's take item 18A, which was consider and take possible action on dispatchers UPSEU collective bargaining agreement. And we were presented with the agreement that has been accepted by the union, and therefore, is there a motion to ratify and authorize the first selectman to sign said contract?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? No.
Just-
I don't
this
think
is
it was
purely-
ratified yet by the union.
I think you're correct.
Right.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, because I was just curious, along the same lines,
That
there's
was
three
the
signature
firefighters.
lines.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
the firefighters? That's why we didn't consider the firefighters, because they
Yes,
hadn't
that is
ratified
right.
it.
He did say it was ratified. I'm just not sure
Right.
why there's three lines.
They have not ratified yet.
Oh, they have
Right.
not, okay. But the leadership has signed off. Okay.
All right. So,
So you sign after they ratify, Matt?
right.
Okay, got it. So we're gonna give you that authority by this motion.
Good. Anything further? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 19, consider and take possible action on potential donation of sick time for an employee. We had discussion regarding same. Mitch, do we identify the employee in this case?
It's advisable to do so.
All right. All right, so we're considering, we are considering the donation of 10 days of sick time, up to 10 days of sick time from Tom Wilson to Paula Wilson. Is there a motion?
Through the end of this
Through
fiscal
the end of
year.
this, for the end of this fiscal year.
I'll make
That's right.
that motion.
Second.
Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. There being no other business to conduct, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, folks. A little longer than I thought. I will talk to Trace, Sue, and I think the rest of the board think it might be a good